right? At the end of the day, there's a million paid internships and there's 20 million undergrad and grad students. So that means only 5% of students can actually get a paid internship. What happens to the rest of them? And the reality is that most companies, because they don't have a structured internship program, either don't want to take on the risk or the complications of taking on, next gen professionals to be part of their learning and development and career exploration. So what we do is through our platform is create that capacity for organizations by connecting them with schools and educators and their students so that they're all working together to ultimately support the students as they learn and companies as they engage with talent. They get to build their employer brand. They get to train and develop next gen talent who hopefully they could potentially hire as they vet and make sure that they're a good fit.
If AI feels overwhelming, you're not behind. You're just busy running a business. New tools pop up every week and no one has time to figure out what actually works. At LionEdge AI, we take AI off your plate so you can focus on running your business. We review your setup, choose the right tools, and run AI systems across sales, customer support, and operations. No noise, no learning curve. LionEdge AI, your unfair advantage in the AI era. Have you ever seen a business with 5 wins? That's what we have today with our guest, Jordan Levy. This guy is a true Renaissance man, a business maverick and full-time visionary disrupting the stale world of higher ed. Jordan's on a mission to bridge the gap between students, schools, and the real business world using the power of AI. How's he pulling that off? You'll have to listen in to find out and the twists in his journey. Trust me, this is one conversation you won't want to miss.
All right. Welcome back to the show. Today I have a very special guest. If you want to know why, listen and tune in. Hello, Jordan. Please introduce yourself and the company.
Hey, Alad, thanks for having me. I'm Jordan Levy from CapSource. We're an education technology organization that's trying to bridge the gap between education and the workplace. We want to make it more exciting for students to go to school, and we want to make it much more helpful for them to find their way as they education and prepare to enter the workforce. So stay tuned to learn a little bit more about us and some of our unique ways that we're connecting students with industry through really meaningful collaboration.
No, that's awesome. When I graduated, I had no clue what's coming, right? I was, right off college. I found my first job and, suddenly the task I was given was nothing similar to what my homework was, right? And, um, I wish there was more of what you do because in my college where I went to, there wasn't really a program that allows students to participate in real, companies and do tasks for them. You also find a real need that a company has, and then find which department at which school can help them actually find a true solution. Am I right on that?
Yeah. So, I always like to start with the problem, right? At the end of the day, there's a million paid internships and there's 20 million undergrad and grad students. So that means only 5% of students can actually get a paid internship. What happens to the rest of them? And the reality is that most companies, because they don't have a structured internship program, either don't want to take on the risk or the complications of taking on, next gen professionals to be part of their learning and development and career exploration. So what we do is through our platform is create that capacity for organizations by connecting them with schools and educators and their students so that they're all working together to ultimately support the students as they learn and companies as they engage with talent. They get to build their employer brand. They get to train and develop next gen talent who hopefully they could potentially hire as they vet and make sure that they're a good fit. So that's the model. We call it kind of the experiential bargain. Students are doing experiential learning and companies are doing experiential hiring or flipped hiring. There's lots of different terminology that you could use for both sides of the equation. Experiential learning is basically learning by doing, right? So we want students to go do something that they can add to their resume. No longer, I mean, think about how many classes you took at at school, how many of those classes do you talk about on a job interview or even reflect on and think about now that you're, one few 10, 20 years out of school? As we've coordinated more and more of this through our platform, one of the most amazing things is when I ask people, "Hey, did you ever get a chance to do something like this as a student?" Most people say no. That's the reason why we exist. But the people who actually say yes, they remember who's on their team, what they worked on, what organization they worked with, and the outcomes of their project. Not a single person can say that about any other class. So to me, that is what we're trying to empower for institutions is to make memorable learning experiences that are formative, that are actually helpful in allowing students to define their career journey and career goals and aspirations. You don't know what you can't see. There's no way. My dad was a doctor. All I knew is I didn't want to be a doctor. But I didn't know what I did wanna do because we just didn't have access to that. And what I ultimately learned is by being a part of school and relying on my educators a lot to learn from them because I really, I craved learning and I always wanted to be the front of the classroom, raising my hand, active learner. I learned that I could work with them. This was my customer base. These are the people that I wanna help. And I'm really proud of the work we do to help educators do this hard work, which is to educate students in a way that's really aligned with their careers and build skills and experiences that are actually going to be useful to them as they progress through, especially the early part.
You know, I have so much to say, and hopefully, this is going to develop into a fruitful discussion here, a dialogue. Um, I cannot not think about what you do as how come this is not a standard in every school. At least, let's put it this way: every school and college should have at least one class, if not more, that it's all about exercising their knowledge in the real world. I don't understand how come that's not a standard. Yeah, some schools do that, some faculties do that, but not all of them 100%. And I just don't see a reason why not to. And we talked about the 5 wins of your business, and let me remind you what I thought about it when you and I chatted, and I wonder, what's your thought about it. So when we look at what you do, who is the beneficiary of it, right? We have the students, obviously, right, because they get experience. We have the schools, right, that they can create a class that is beneficial for their students, and maybe there's also some financial rewards with that. I don't know, right, but it could be an option. Three is those businesses, the real companies, right, in the world that now they have workforce kind of for free to help them actually solve a true problem that they have. It might not be a major problem, most likely, but it's still a problem that they can give opportunity to the young engineers or whatever, to try to solve it, right? So now it's the third win. And then we have CapSource, which is you guys. Well, obviously, for the reasons are obvious, right? You enjoy this, this venture that you're doing. And then the last one is the local community, because and you told me that you work in communities and then you move to another community because it's also easier to leverage your connection, and then the community win by the fact that now they have students that got experience, and most likely they might even stay there, right? Because they had a good experience of, hopefully, right, working with those businesses and get experience in what they learn, and then they might stay. And and we understand why the community is benefiting for having their graduates stay and join the workforce. So I found this super like you're a hub in between all those 5 aspects. Do you agree with me? Is that something that you guys thought about?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I love the framing, and I would certainly put us last, right? I think we constantly make sacrifice, more lucrative contracts. If we were to do things differently, we'd rather do things right and make it sustainable for our partners. I think because ultimately, if it's not sustainable and high impact, they're not going to come back. But really, like thinking about the benefits, I'm a connector. That's what I like to do. I like to bring people together and make that experience distinguished and meaningful and impactful. And, really like, the number one, best deed you could do is introduce two people that ultimately get married and have kids. That's an amazing good deed. But then I'd say the next best is to help people connect with something that they're passionate about that helps them find fulfillment and helps ultimately them contribute more to their community and the greater good, right? To repair the world. So they're not going to do that. You can't if you're not engaged, if you don't have the mentorship, you don't have. So for me, that's the mission is like, I want to do that. How I do that is by convincing people who have knowledge to share it with people that they otherwise wouldn't have, where hopefully it benefits the person learning and the organization that leader of the organization and their team. So that's the brass tacks. They're definitely benefiting. And, the truth of the matter is I can't see the future. You said, why don't schools do this? It boggles my mind. The real reason is it's a lot cheaper and easier to teach students in rows learning from a textbook, right? Here's the deck. It comes with the textbook. Here's the exam. It comes with the textbook. That's easy. Now with AI, that those days are over. You can't ask students to do that anymore. So what are we going to do? And I think this is the solution. I think the solution is these are engines for good, engines for learning and impact is what a school should be, especially higher learning. I understand, elementary school, middle school, high school, they all serve different functions in young child development, and adolescent development. And it's a lot more about helping them figure out how to communicate and connect with each other. And then slowly but surely, you start shifting the focus to what kind of skills do you want to use and how are those skills going to serve you for the rest of your life so that you can earn and recontribute to the economy, right? Because if you don't do that, then people are just on the welfare system. They never find motivation. They have debt hanging over their heads. This is what the last 25 years of education has done to the United States. So for me, it's just a matter of time. I believe strongly education institutions are more marketable. Their programming is more compelling. It's more impactful. Students graduate are able to earn more, get promotions more quickly. They're able to donate back to their schools more. They have even a passion because they remember they might have even got their job because of a class that we put together for them. So those are the types of outcomes that we look for. And when all of this is buzzing, there's a hive, right? It's a hive. Even though my tech exists in cyberspace, we're connecting people. Not every connection needs to be local, but at least enough. 30-40% of the University of Montana's projects that we help them find are in their own backyard. Just by approaching the right people, filtering them the right way, organizing the right campaigns, now you have the hive is functioning as a hive, and you're exporting, that hive and those confidants, those allies, lifelong allies elsewhere. And then they're advocating for your school, donating, want to work with you. And now you're bringing more students and more interest into your community. So the more that schools invest into this type of infrastructure, the bigger partnerships, better partnerships they have with organizations where then they start to say, you know what, let's sponsor this. This is perfect. We can start working with a student freshman year. By the time they're a senior, they know us. They know everybody in our department. They know they've already gotten a chance to work in 5 different areas of the engineering product design part of our business. Now I know that when I hire them, they're going to be ready to go. They're going to be productive on day one and they're going to be successful. That's the big, that's the system we're trying to create. Obviously the complication is there's a lot of stakeholders. They all have different priorities. They have different reasons for engaging with the platform and with each other. And so I think really what our magic is, well, the magic that we pour all of our effort into product development is to how do you align all these stakeholders so that there's the best chance of success for them through their collaborations. We do it through projects, We do it through case studies, which is open innovation. Students can just work on something and get a chance to get some experience working on the PGA Tour or Caterpillar or Adidas. And we do it through mentoring, personalized coaching. So those are the tools. We have guest lectures. We've tried all sorts of other different approaches to bring industry into the classroom. Frankly, if someone says to me, "Hey, we want to bring industry into our institution in this way," there's always going to be a room for CapSource to help. And a lot of our product has been developed over time, hand in hand with academic leaders who said, it'd be helpful if we can get the students that are working on projects to also get mentored professionally, rather than to just focus on, hey, you're doing a marketing campaign for this, this regional brewery. Hey, by the way, this person wants to do brewing or wants to be a restaurant owner or is thinking about, potentially going into alcohol sales and distributions. Can you mentor him about that rather than just focusing on the marketing campaign? So for us, it's all about adding more tools, more intention to the connect and more resources, especially now with AI being integrated into the platform, so that now when you're making these connections, there's support, there's understanding, there's alignment, and there's shared resources that are ultimately at least positioning you most likely to make it successful.
Beautiful. Take me a little bit behind the scenes. Um, is that, do you have to always work with both sides to make it happen, or is it you approach one of the, I guess, the business, right? Get them interested, and then connect them with the university or college, and then let them take it from there. Tell us a little bit about the effort that in order to make it happen.
We have a lot of schools that use our platform as an operating system. It's essentially a CRM for your contacts network of industry partners. It's your learning management system for your students, and and we call it an ELMS, right? It's a place also for the companies to log in and be able to work with the students in a safe, space. And it's as well a project management tool, right? So like helping the students actually plan for how they're going to approach these types of things. So I think that gives people a picture of what it is that we offer. If schools want to use it by themselves to organize their own, that's always been be a SaaS product that people pay for and rely on, and we can focus on just making the platform as effective as it could be. Oh, it is it's clear to me that this happens in many pockets throughout schools. Certain disciplines require it, most do not. For example, like medicine, like you need to get matched. It's part of graduating from med school. To do a residency, you're not going to let someone do heart surgery if they were never a resident and did experiential learning. So, of course, for that high stakes job, for engineering jobs, which I would say is like the next most technical, discipline that we see use experiential learning a lot, it's a requirement for that accreditor says if you want to graduate people with our accreditation, they need to have applied learning experience. So those are easy fields for us to work with because those departments already have some function in place to do this type of work. Really, it's bringing it to the other disciplines that I think is what's most meaningful. It's to say your discipline is important enough that there's someone in the industry that wants to work with you. Even foreign language, we've had students work that are foreign language experts on translating film scripts, audio scripts, websites, converting documentation so that people who have English as a second language or don't speak have fluency in English can still do the paperwork that they need to. There's 1,001 ways to use students. So at the end of the day, the operating system, the product, technical product, the ecosystem is available, and then we decided from the very beginning that if schools say I want to do this, but I need help. You can't just say, sorry, we're a SaaS product, right? Because like for me, that's about finding product market fit, is that we are ahead of the market. We know that. We created a tool that we hope that the schools will eventually need because they're shifting their educational approach. It's not something that they were banging on the doors for because it wasn't being offered already. We're trying to say you offer this to 3 to 5% of your students, let's offer it to 100% of the students every semester, not 3 to 5% one time throughout the academic program. That's a lot more work. And that's really the vision, is that if you need support finding 100 companies that meet certain criteria, we can help the schools do that. So we have an entire team that works on building our network, onboarding organizations to our platform, campaigning them to get involved in more engagements. That whole kind of process is a service that we offer on top of the platform. So schools can either use the software, or they can use our services. And we used to have a really big service part of our business that was actually curriculum design, that now we integrated AI into the platform, and basically the AI creates the entire curriculum based on what the companies want to do, what the students and educator expectations are. So it's a whole new world for us now that AI is a part of the picture.
All right. You mentioned the use of AI, right? That you use in your business, and we talked about there's two aspects. There is the aspect of how you use AI to for your client, right? And I think you mentioned the curriculum builder that helps you with that. But you also mentioned that it might help you. Oops, I'm sorry. Can you still hear me? Right. Okay. That it also helps you with um, managing the business, right, on the back end. Can you shed more light about your usage of AI today?
Well, I think one thing for sure is that it's impossible to understand how to use AI to help your customers if you're not using it yourself. So I'm a top 1% user of ChatGPT. I'm particularly fond of OpenAI. I was a early adopter, and then now it's just become a religious part of my routine. And I think, from a personal standpoint and a professional standpoint, I mean, even my own personal choices. I threw a New Year's Eve party. How do you actually get organized? It used to be that you have to think about everything. You have to write the list. Now it's I just speak into the app structures the list, the shopping list that goes along with it, and there's so many of my individual workflows that used to be, just slightly more, intensive, and something that almost sometimes you're like, "Ugh, I'll just forget it, I'll do it another time." Now that it's like, "You know what? I should reply to this email right now. I should, send this proposal out." And what used to take hours now takes minutes, and it's changed my entire workflow. And then, it started where one of our biggest values is like helping schools build their network and introducing new organizations to their network. Call it project matching, sourcing and designing projects. So originally, we had a team of instructional designers that were writing out like what the scope would be based on what we thought the students' capabilities were and what the companies needed. And that, like I said, that was our magic sauce. That's what really is like optimizing outcomes for all. The 5 wins, right?
Yeah.
Uh, the the AI now, because I was using AI so religiously in my own process, we said to instructional designers, instead of having several of you and you're all scoping, why not we just have one and you're using AI? And now it's integrated directly into the tool. And so we don't even need that team has been, reassigned to new things because it's just not, it's not needed anymore. It's all done with AI. So by doing it with AI myself, with my team, we learned, okay, if we structure an integration with OpenAI like this, we can personalize the project-based experiences so that they match the student capabilities and ultimately are reasonable to accomplish in the time with the level of student from the institution in this discipline. That's a very important, piece of our product that now, we can fly through coordinating 30 projects for NYU in weeks instead of months. The other thing that I think is really meaningful is how you personalize mentoring curriculum. So for example, like not only can you build projects and case studies that match the expectations of students and their capabilities, but also bringing two people together and saying, well, I think this is actually what you guys should focus on based on what your goals are and what your capabilities are and your know-how and your experience. And I think that's a really novel piece of our product. And then we see so many, I mean, all these other ways, like how do you help educators keep track of what their students are working on? How do you help educators intervene with the teams and projects where it's most necessary? How do you help educators coach their students to get through challenges, give them feedback, grade them? All of these things we want to make AI integrated in our platform. And that's
in your type of CRM, right?
yeah, in it's
So
right inside. So as you're working with the product, AI is there to help you and support you so that because that's ultimately what makes the product indispensable, right? At the end of the day, I say this to every person I do career coaching and professional development with. I say, if you want to get paid and have job security, you need to be indispensable to your organization. They cannot imagine working on something without you. It's the same thing as a system. It's why, HubSpot gets away with charging as much as they do. And Salesforce, has clients for 30, 40 years because they cannot do what they want to do without it. And we want to be indispensable to the future higher ed institution that prioritizes experiential education.
beautiful. The more I chat with you, the more I learn about your services. When I first started, I thought it's only about, the making the connection, but it's way more than that. And I'm happy that you're able to shed more light and explain us what's your system is all about. By the way, if somebody goes to your website, would they be able to see a demo or to see what's inside?
Yeah. Yeah, you can register and get started for free and play around with the product, and then as you wanna create programs and onboard students, that's where a subscription is required.
Got you. Perfect. Thank you very much. We got to our segment, the final five future focus questions. And as a business owner, I'm sure that you have a lot of insight about that. So, this question number one, if you had a magic wand that you could fix anything that right now either prevent you from growing or slows you down or any kind of challenge that you have, what would you use it for?
It's funny because it's like you call it a magic wand and I call it my engineering team, but, what I literally think about when you say this is a lot of the most successful companies in education bring revenue in, which we're already doing, and serve students without requiring supervision, oversight by faculty and administrators. So it's basically, can you give students this experience and have it be
Yes.
study, right? So for me, that's the magic wand is if I could wave a magic wand and make this super engaging and impactful for students and require zero overhead and complications for faculty and educators and institutions. I think that's the magic wand. And for us that this year we launched updates to our product where our case library now students can just answer the cases. It used to be that you had to go into a program with an educator. Now it's if the school has a subscription, the students can start working on these case studies and the students can request mentorship and build curriculum for them to go through with their mentor. So we're trying to basically be able to offer it where some of our competitors they just give the platform to the school shares it with the students get started. It doesn't require any other engagement. And I think schools where they're at, they need tools like that. And then eventually you grow into the more high impact experiences. And I think that's our magic wand for now.
This is great, and I'm sure that I know you mentioned that your dev team, but your dev team using, I'm sure, right, AI already a couple of years probably right now, and I'm sure that one of the usages would be to provide this experience that you just mentioned. AI would be a big part of it, that they're gonna find a way to do it. All right, good. Next question. Looking into the next 12 months, right? If you're gonna look back 12 months from now in retrospective, and everything goes as planned, as you wish it go, what what are your key metrics that you would actually measure your success?
Yeah. There's metrics that are easy to measure, and then there are the more important ones that are hard. So, like, the ones that we really care about are obviously the net promoter score, the students like want this? Do they want to recommend it to their peers? Do companies want this? Do they want to recommend it to their peers? Do they want to come back? Do schools and educators want to share this with more peers, other institutions? Like that's obviously means a lot to us. And then like the ones that really matter to me are our students finding jobs that are more fulfilling, finding jobs that are higher earning, that are ultimately getting promoted more quickly and making more of an impact on their organization. If we could measure that, that's what I would ultimately, really want to look at as a year over year growth. What's easier to measure for us is more, it's like secondary statistics. Is our revenue growing? Are the number of schools that we're reaching, a number of students that we're reaching, a number of projects that they're working on, number of case studies that we're adding, number of mentorships completed, number of organizations that we're engaging with, number of hires that they make. Those are things that are a lot easier for us to measure. So those are the types of things that we ultimately will be measuring. But if there's one statistic this year that I'm really curious to see grow, we renewed we have a new partnership model with institutions that have proven that they can charge for their programming because their faculty and students are effective in this. There is a revenue stream. There is a
No.
gold from companies willing to invest into schools if the schools are producing the talent and the innovative outcomes that they need, right? So they're basically that's a win. That's a true win-win between both organization and student. I want to see. So last year we brought a few $100,000 in as a pilot to our pilot schools. I want to bring in millions. I want to bring in millions of dollars because once you can bring in seven figures to a school, your ability to negotiate is much higher because that's leverage. That's leverage. That's literal. Hey, if you want this, you need me. Here's how we operate. It's going to cost you.
Indispensable.
Exactly.
Exactly. Indispensable. And like I said, I just cannot see why not every school must use it. Like it just doesn't make sense because it's so important, and especially these days. I don't know if you're familiar with the statistics, but the young generation or the young graduate, they are having hard time finding job because businesses these days need to evaluate, can I do this job that with their young experience, can I do it with AI and save, or do I really need to hire someone? And that's true to almost every business, right? Whether you're an engineer or marketing or even finance, right? And this program absolutely helps, finding the way, get them experience. And I'm wondering, do you have statistics how many students you helped so far?
Yeah, in my career, we're approaching 50,000 through
Wow.
CapSource, about 30. So my first business was all case studies, and we were helping students just get a chance to connect with companies through the case study method. And then we developed the projects because I said, one of our clients was like, I want this student to get the experience of working on this where they actually are interacting with the company. And I was like, if you guys are willing to pay, 50 times as much for that, I'm happy to coordinate it for you. So that's where
this,
the new business was born.
this is fantastic. Just my 2 cents, not an expert, but my 2 cents would be, if you can find statistics that shows to measure any kind of success metric for the students, for between the one that went through your channels, that went through your project, right, to maybe others that have not, or even in general, just the one that you know that they I'm you probably have this data about the students, and a few years later see where they are, and then you can tie it back to some kind of relation between, hey, the one that went through our projects are maybe doing better or doing well in general, you know a few years later. I think that's also a huge factor in, again, being indispensable and this essence of why you guys are needed. Just my 2 cents, whether
Yeah.
it's take it for what it was. All right. um in the past, you've been in around for quite some time. in the past where you had to implement or adopt a new technology? What was the process for you look like?
Well, I think so we're a fully virtual team, so everything that we do as a team is supported by tech products to create a tech product that other people will buy and use, and there's that because schools are still residential, is very much like crosses the digital to analog, which is actually a very hard thing to do. I think when everyone during COVID got used to adopting technology quickly because they were just on their computers. That's how you had to interact and work with others. So I think, I remember COVID times being a level of a phase of growth for us because a lot of our clients, a lot of our industry organizations went from being somewhat analog and digital to digital and maybe analog. And I think we were already very used to it because we used all these tools and resources for so many other things. So I think, for the most part, it's not easy to adopt new tech. And like AI is, and by AI, we've been dealing with AI for a long time, but large language models, the conversational agent-based AI, that kind of thing is been an amazing kind of resource to see how quickly it's growing, how much people are using it. I try to motivate my team to challenge themselves. I always introduce by screen sharing examples of how I'm using something. And then I want everyone to also co-create. I think that's part of experiential learning is when you give direction, in our scoping, we don't actually tell students what to do. We tell them these are the types of questions that you should probably be answering by this point in the project with whatever deliverable you think is important. And of course, you can make adjustments to the scope. Of course, things can go in a variety of different ways, but approaching things by asking questions, inquiry is so much more meaningful to next generation learners because they want to be the protagonist of their own learning journey. And it's the same thing with younger employees. Tell them this is the goal. We agree that this is the goal. These are the tools. Here's example, get your own. I think that's always been, my approach, and I think, at the end of the day, we don't pay top salaries, we can't. It's, we all of our clients are nonprofits and are extremely, stringent financially. So, we try to find people who are motivated to work on this, that are excited to work on this, and we hope that by pouring all of this energy, we'll be rewarded with, with
Don't you have students and interns that work for you as part of the right? You can be an example of a business, right? That you can work with universities. Seriously, have you thought about it? And they
yeah.
can develop something for you.
One of my engineers came off of one. We've had other engineers, project managers, product managers that have worked for us for years that came out of programs that we've worked on with students while at school. And the entire AI integration that we created in the platform was all co-created with students. So if I were to turn that into an ask for the podcast listeners, is that if you can't figure out a way to use next generation talent to solve some of your problems, you won't be around in 10 years to be solving any problems for anyone. And my perfect example of that is from 1950 to 2000, they looked at every Fortune 500 company and 95% of them went out of business. And it's because even
Wow.
if you're the powerhouse of today, if you're not thinking about tomorrow and working with the leaders of tomorrow, you'll be, you'll be a has been in no time. So that's why I always say, yes, AI might be able to solve your problems, but what you really need to think about is how you can engage next generation to use AI to solve your problems so that you can continue building what you're building and bringing the next generation with you as customers, confidants, managers of your operations, leadership at your customer sites, so on and so forth. That's what the beauty is of investing that energy now into that generation.
Absolutely. And you almost, I think, kind of even touched my last question. Maybe you already answer it in a way. When you think about the thing that is the most challenging for you right now, and I'm sure that you can probably even measure it with the cost. Like the fact that you don't have a solution for something right now might be costing you something, right? Sometimes it's easy to measure. and sometimes it's maybe a little bit more complicated. But if you could use AI, because at the end of the day, right, we are all about how we can use AI for our benefit, for our businesses. Do you have an idea in mind that you are planning, or maybe you're already doing this year, to use AI automation to solve that challenge for you? And what would that be?
I think, yeah, I think every day I want to challenge myself to use AI differently, make the most of the things you pay for. And I think one cool thing is like I used to have to call customer support and troubleshoot to get answers. Now you can really use AI as an assistant. And I think that to me, like even troubleshooting configuration of my television and Sonos, like that to me, I used to have to call Samsung and I used to have to call Sonos and I was trying to now I have a third party entity that can answer those questions. So building that into the product, building it into our workflows, building it into our language, our competency as a team, that to me is what I'm motivated to do is just make the most of these expensive tools, including our own for our own customers.
Right. Absolutely. And you know what? I can't agree more. I see it myself day in, day out. Uh, Companies adopting those customer service chatbots. All right. They're available 24/7. And guess what? They're really knowledgeable. And it's very rare that I won't get the answer I need, because I mean, if the company really feeds them well with the knowledge that is needed, and it saves me, you know, I couldn't be happier. If I have a problem, it's 10 p.m. Usually customer service by now are gone. But then if I can go on the website, type as I speak, same behavior, same terminology, and then this chatbot reply back to me and give me the answer, right? So I don't need to wait for the next day. It's a big value for companies, and absolutely, I agree with you. That's the next thing, I think. Hey, Jordan, this was awesome. I really want to thank you. I think what you guys are doing, as I mentioned, should be mainstream standard. Everyone should do that. It's we talk about the 5 wins, that this service provides. And I wish you all about success and prosperity.
Thank you a lot. Thanks for having me.
If AI feels overwhelming, you're not behind. You're just busy running a business. New tools pop up every week, and no one has time to figure out what actually works. At LionEdge AI, we take AI off your plate so you can focus on running your business. We review your setup, choose the right tools, and run AI systems across sales, customer support, and operations. No noise, no learning curve. LionEdge AI, your unfair advantage in the AI era.